Welcome to Dig Up the Roots Financially Speaking, Episode 2. Today we will be talking about financial fear. The fear of money and why we spend, how we spend, or lack of. Last week we talked about rejection and how it shapes our relationships. Now let's jump into fear. When we think about fear, it's coupled with so many other things, with worry, with anxiety, with dread and unease. But that's a place. But guess what? That's not a place that we have to stay. Let me give you an example. That during the last crises we had, a lot of people were operating in fear, and some of it probably was a little valid. Fear of not knowing what was going to be next, fear if they were going to lose their job, fear if they ran out of toilet paper. And there are times because of those different things that's where we operate out of. We extensively consume stuff out of fear. And I'm using myself for example because during that crisis, I did buy a lot of certain items. And guess what happened? At the end of it all, and going into, say, the following year after it's done, I noticed that a lot of my items were expired. And why? Because honestly, that was operating out of fear, at least well for me, in a little bit. I'm not talking about no big over extensive, but fear is that little thing that slowly can creep in to your finances. Think about it. There are some people that they fear opening their bank statements because it might just be in the negative. Again, there's some people that when they're operating in fear because they're they're in a place of control, but in a not in a good way. There are other things that are linked to fear where we just completely just shut it out. I know that bill came in the mail and it has red on it. That means it's overdue. However, I'm not going to look at it. And part of the look not wanting to deal with the situation is because of fear of what's next. And I'm going to say that though fear may come and probably will come at some point of your life, that we don't have to stay in that place. We can be bold. And part of the boldness might be opening up that statement that came in the mail and you're unsure of, or that medical bill that came and you're not unsure, wow, how much am I going to have to pay? Am I going to have enough to pay? How am I going to pay it? Yes, we have those things that could happen in real life. However, how we address that fear really makes a difference. And I would say that we need to learn how to take control, to take charge of our spending. And of course, it comes with a plan. And even if it doesn't fit into your plan, you still have permission to take control of the outcome. And do I mean? Maybe you did get a bill in the mail that's just like way crazy, like I don't know how I'm going to do that. You can make agreements. They're not going to say no to your money, but most of the time. But I just really here today, what we're digging up is digging up why are you spending how you're spending. And that root could have led to childhood. I came home and my lights wasn't on. I don't want to never be in that situation again. So now we're operating out of fear. Every time I get that bill, am I going to be able to pay it? Because of course we understand that we have to have our lights on for so many different things, but I'm talking about operating in fear. Fear that, man, I got my car repossessed probably 20 something years ago. And I'm not operating, but there's some people are operating fear like, man, am I going to be able to make that car payment? Or am I going to be able to get a car again? Because they're operating in a place of fear. Today, I want you to take control. And of course, taking control, as I mentioned before, is having a plan. But you need to identify, where did this come in? Why am I operating in fear when it comes to my finances? Take control so you can be free. And what do I mean by being free? Free from the torment of fear, because fear is torment. You can be free, and that you can have peace. And peace looks different for everyone, but you can obtain it. And I'm going to say today, start with a plan. You can do this. If you like what you heard today, share it out, subscribe. We will be back next week.